All right, shalom, and welcome to another Bible study that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. My name is Esaac ben Israel, and I'm the elder priest of the United Congregation of Israel, and I'm joined here with my brother Elijah. Shalom, brother.
Shalom.
All right, so we're going to get into a few things here. I want to go into some things about some of the false religion that Yahweh had warned us about, and some of these things have been disguised and handed back to us as some things that are fun. A lot of times, you talk to, the generation before, and they all say, the same thing. Each generation believed that they have like the newest thing, and that the generation before never seen anything like that. And when you get right down to it, you find that it's the same things that they repackage. So what the adversary does is make sure that he repackages the same kind of forbidden things so that we don't really recognize them for what they are. We don't really recognize the great thing that we are doing against our Elohim. And it is designed for us to not know those things. So I want to begin in Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20, and change this. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
And Elohim spake all these things, all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, thy Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
All right, so one of the things that we have to look at is in verse 2, it says, I am Yahweh, your Elohim. And if you're not, aware of certain things, that the L-O-R-D that they input in verse 2 is all capital. So understand that when they had all caps L-O-R-D, it is referring to Yahweh. Normally, when they have one capital L-O-R-D, it's referring to Yahshua. And all lowercase L-O-R-D just means master or Adonai, okay? So then you have Elohim or God. So then if you look in verse 2, there's a capital G. Then when he says in verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me, there is no capital there. There's no capital G. So we have this thing where there's a lower level of God, even when you deal with these angels. So when you get to the point of you shall have no gods over me, when we do the things like allowing somebody else to take credit for Yahweh's work, that is, it says point blank, he will not give his glory unto another. So if someone else has any kind of system that overrides Yahweh, you have worshiped that God before Yahweh, over Yahweh. If some other, whether it be an angel or a man, has a calendar system, when Yahweh has created the solar system, there can't be a calendar system by somebody else and you have not put that person over Yahweh. It's like, me going to your house and, I say, this is, James' living room, but your name Tyrone. There's a problem. Wait a minute now. You putting somebody else over me in my own house? When Yahweh has created these things, how can any of the significant things, and if sometimes people think it's a small thing, when you talk about a calendar, you got to go back to Genesis in the beginning. This is one of the very foundational things that's there. We're talking about the very first thing set up. Well, if you're talking about let there be lights in the firmament. This is your calendar system. When it's talking about there being a great light to govern the day, a lesser light to govern the night, this is our calendar system. So we always say that the first thing that Yahweh blessed and sanctified was the Sabbath day. All right. But when you get right down to it, his first workings is creating a light that is not dependent upon him. So when we then allow somebody else to take that calendar, you are then very much so having other gods before him. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not make unto any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Mm-hmm. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I am Yahweh thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Right. And very few people will say that they hate Yahweh. All right. What will end up happening is our actions will show that we hate Yahweh. So then we have to then look at a few things. Let's go to verse 4, back up to verse 4. You should not make unto you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Now, these images end up leading off into other things. And we're in a time where images mark everything, you know. But we have to then ask ourselves, at what point does the image become something else? For almost everything that we either buy or we deal with, they all have logos. At what point does a logo become an idol? At what point do we put so much power that the logo takes on a whole different thought process of its own? You know, if you get down to, you know, what you know, Jay-Z would do with holding his little triangle up and saying it was Rock Nation, it was supposed to be the logo. When you get right down to it, that logo was not just a logo. There was something else going on there. So then, while you have one group of people who believe that this is just a logo, there are other individuals that are worshiping these things openly amongst themselves, but not openly to the people who don't know. So then these people are unknowingly taken apart in those things, not understanding what they are. You know, even, you know, one of the highest selling shoes is, you know, Michael Jordan, his Air Jordan. But when you get down, back up, this comes from Nike. When you look at some of those first shoes, they had those wings on them, and they remade the shoes. So there was some idiots walking around with some big wings hanging out. Their pants won't even go past the shoe because they got the big wings hanging. Open worship of another god. That's a god that you have hanging on the back with the wings on the shoes. That was in representation of a god. You know, and these are things that they're not sharing with us, but we are unknowingly walking into some of these things. When you talk about just the days, Yahweh had first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, Sabbath day. And it's interesting that he didn't call that the seventh day. He called it the Sabbath day. It automatically stands out because it's different from how the other days are dealt with. So what does the heathen do? Try to make each one of them equal. And even when you get down to the days, it says that we're not supposed to even mention the names of other gods out of our mouths. We have to mention them just to say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You're talking about Moon's Day. You're talking about Wednesday, Woensday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Frig Day. Understand, all of these are gods. So the worship of these things have been intertwined, and not just the things that we do, even the things that we watch on television. We have been given these things. Until I never paid attention to it. I never really watched some of those shows. I glanced at the shows, and I might have heard something, but I didn't pay it any mind. Until we did the thing concerning the scapegoat and Azazel, several people have come to me and said, you know, in this movie, when this individual was playing the devil, his name was Azazel, and they was pointing out these several things. Now, I never paid that any attention. We had to go look up scapegoat, see Azazel. Wait a minute. So there's this thing that's happening around us that they purposely are not explaining. Like when we go to keep New Year's at church, I know I thought I was really doing something amazing. Okay, I thought, you know, I am worshiping God and I'm not at the club. I just knew you couldn't tell me nothing. You know, then every last one of those places, they did the ritual. They count down to New Year's. They have you turn around, look at the back door. They count down to the new year, and then they have you turn around and say, now, you know, that's your past, this is your future. They did a mock ritual of the two-headed god Janus right there in church. And that's the only place you ever see this ritual done. You don't see anybody else doing this ritual at the club. So I thought coming out of the club, I was going to be better. And I ended up being worse because I learned that ritual at church. It took 10, 12 years later for me to understand what that ritual meant. All right. So when you go and look up Janus, you're going to see the two-headed god that looks into the past and the future. Now, the reason he has to be celebrated in New Year's, because he's supposed to be the gatekeeper who ushers in the future from the past. What other moment is there other than New Year's Eve? You're standing in the middle of 2 years. That's when, you know, he is to be worshiped. This is why in your New Year's gatherings, we always had ambrosia, all the nuts and raisins with the alcohol, and all of these drinks are made to worship those gods. We didn't know every New Year's the same drink showed up. We didn't understand what that was for. And I'm talking about year after year. My family did these things. I had to be a grown man in the word and start figuring out, well, wait a minute. So this is why we did this? So this worship of other gods has gotten very, very slick. So even us in the word, you have to constantly pray that Yahweh will forgive you. Remember what Job said. He prayed for his sons and his daughters continually because he said, it may be that my sons may have cursed you in their heart. What? How to do that? They didn't know they was doing it. So then you have to consider how many things we might be partaking in, not knowing how angry or the jealousy that we are activating inside of our Elohim by doing those things. I had to watch one of the kid movies. I go back and forth watching these movies because I love them. Hercules, and one of the things in Hercules, he is the minion is down there with Lucifer, right? And they saying that Hercules is they making him out. You know, he's supposed to be son of Zeus, i.e. Zeus, Jesus. Okay, he is the son of Zeus. This is what i.e. Zeus, Jesus comes from. Okay, so this is the son of Zeus. They're trying to kill Zeus, son of Zeus, Hercules, and one of the minions show up with Hercules shoes on. And of course, Lucifer zaps him and sets him on fire, said, I'm trying to kill this guy. and you down here with his merchandise. That was so slick, because what it showed is the adversary, the devil, did not like them having this merchandise, but it's actually the adversary who makes sure that we are wearing the merchandise of other gods. So it was a real reverse thing, if you will. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 5.
Oh, can I add something?
Go ahead.
Because I know you did a class in 2018 about New Year's. And when you mentioned Janus, I think you defined Janus. And then I think he also goes by Pater. Yeah. And then you consider most of the time whenever they talk about the pearly gates, they talk about meeting St. Peter at the gate.
They real funny about the gates. Because they really describe the gates like it's really only, one. They don't really deal with the 12 tribes. They really, and one of the reasons why they want to deal with Peter, of course, is he is the one who was given, the keys, meaning that he is the rock, as Yahshua would say, the rock on which the church was formed. They always are going to link everything back to Peter so that they can justify their authority of being in control. No matter what it is, it's going to lead back to Peter one way or another. And another thing about that Janus thing, we always, and I grew up doing this. You end up watching the championship football games. They come on around, some on New Year's. You have the championship normally by January 6th, somewhere around there. But you got all of these football games going on. This is when the Janus Mutual Fund, look it up. The Janus Mutual Fund commercial comes on. It don't come on until New Year. Oh yeah, now this is a mutual fund, and you wonder, how do these people make money? They don't need to advertise. All right? They only advertise to put out the worship of their God. They only advertise. You never see this commercial any other time. What other company that can afford to only advertise one time out the year? You will never see a Janus Mutual Fund commercial anywhere. I haven't seen it in the last 20, 30 years. Let New Year's come around. Here come the Janus Mutual Fund. And then they put up the coin. And the coin has two heads on it. It has a head looking left, head looking right. What it's really portraying is the head looking in the past and in the future. Because he's supposed to be the God of gates and entryways. Okay? So understand what's happening. Even when we go to watch our football, we are in the midst of paganistic worship and have no idea. So when we get into these things and it says, do not worship any gods before me, we really don't know how deeply we have transgressed. Go ahead, Deuteronomy chapter 5. And we're just going to read verses 8 through 10 because I want to show you how Yahweh operates.
Verse 8.
Start at verse 7.
Verse 7. All right. Thou shalt have none other gods before me.
Didn't he already say that? Some tell me he know his people. See, Israel is the kind of people that you have to say something 20 times. And on time 21, they say, you know what, I think I heard that before. It took you 21? Keep reading.
Thou shalt not make thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water beneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself unto them, nor serve them. For I, Yahweh, thy Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the iniquity of the father upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Now, it seems like he is making this point. He wants to make sure that he hammers this in. But then you have to back up and think about some of the other things that have taken place. When I think it was Pharaoh had the dream, and you have several situations where there was dreams, and he says, oh, the two dreams are one. And he said, what do you mean the two dreams are one? Yahweh does something double fold when he justifies it. Just like, the firstborn gets a double portion. So he makes it happen twice to justify it. There are times that you think something may be redundant. No. He's letting you know how important that is. So he'll go and say something else, and then he come right back over here. Then he'll go and deal with something else, and he come right back. Why does he do that? He's letting you know. It's like an experienced professor in college. They'll start going over all this stuff. I remember being at DeVry saying, oh, I'm definitely going to fail. Because that's too much stuff coming out of his mouth. I'm not going to remember that. Then I noticed there were certain things that would pop back up. I was like, wait. Second time I heard that. He go into a whole bunch of other stuff. But, wait a minute, that's the third time I heard that. Okay, wait a minute, that's the fourth time I heard this. And then he got one day, this guy, you couldn't tell that he was like brilliant. If you saw him on the street, you would think he was homeless. All right? Had the oldest suits you had ever seen in your life. Fly collar, did not comb his beard or his hair. He had mega money, had several businesses, and was a consultant for NASA. You would never know. Absolute genius. And one day he says, the stuff that you need to know, I'm going to make sure you know it. Stop worrying about, stop being scared. And you get to the point, you learn how to listen and say, oh no, this has importance. Because I realize how this comes back up. And he had a system. But if you didn't know that right away, he would scare you with all of this stuff that he's throwing at you. And some of it, he said, this stuff you need to just have heard of. You need to just know what it is. You don't need to know everything about it. And I thought that was rather interesting. Now, one of the things, or two of the things that's mentioned in here, one of them is bow down. So I want to read bow down. It says the definition in Strong's is H7812, H meaning Hebrew, shakar, a primitive root to depress, that is prostrate, especially reflexively in homage to royalty or God. Bow down, crouch, fall down, humbly beseech, do make obeisance, do reverence, make to stoop, worship. So then we have that. He said, you shall not do that. Then we have to look at the definition for serve, which is H5647, abad. And it is to work, serve, labor, to work for another, serve another by labor, to serve as subjects, to serve with Levitical service, to be worked, be tilled, make oneself a servant, to compel to labor or work, to cause to serve as subjects, to be led or enticed to serve. So then he says, you shall not bow down or serve. Now, where it kind of gets interesting, most of the logos are attached to the places that we work. That's serving. So there's so many things. When the children of Israel had to walk through the wall of water coming out of Egypt, they needed to be cleansed. And they had no idea of what he was doing when he got them out there, and he took away their ordinary food. And they were complaining. He took away their water. He is trying to purge things out of them that they have no idea is even in there. They have no idea that is there. But in the first sign of Moshe not being around, what did they do? First sign, they said, "Oh no, this has been long enough. Go ahead, let's make us a god, And let's go back. We're going to tell Pharaoh we're sorry. We're gonna tell them, come on, we need a group of people who skilled in lamentation. Let's go and let's cry. Let's tell them we're sorry. We want to go back. We're sorry. We decided to be free. Can you please open up the prison and let us back in? That's what we did at the first sign of Moshe not being around, and that's something that we need to consider. I want to kind of jump here. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 18. You know what? Before we go there, hold your place right there. Let's go to Leviticus 19 first. We're going to go to Leviticus first. And start at verse 26.
Ye shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall ye use enchantment, nor observe times.
All right, so we're getting into the things that are presented religiously, and we don't really understand why they're coming at us that way. Yahweh says you shall not eat anything with the blood because the life is in the blood. If you go to one of these hospitals, you will be amazed, especially if you got to be the one sitting on that bed, how many times they're going to come and take your blood. Then they're going to tell you that, your blood is low. Yeah, it's low because you keep coming in here taking it. And I mean, they deal in this, okay? But then you find that they're doing all kinds of things. One of the brothers sent a little video where they were talking about all of the strange things the medical industry is doing with the placenta, with the umbilical cord, and they're selling these articles and extracting all kind of things out of them. And who goes to the hospital and say, no, make sure you put my placenta in the bag? We're not going to ask for that. So they are selling these things. When my last daughter was born, they brought the nurses coming who were not there when she was, delivered. They all coming over saying, that is the most perfect umbilical cord we have ever seen. Look at all the colors in it. Look at how it's wrapped like a phone cord. It is beautiful. And I mean, there's a line of people just coming in. I said, oh, it's something real creepy about to happen in here. Because the creepy looks on those faces, it's like they can't wait till we get out of here. Because they finna take that and do something with it. So when you deal with these things, even when we go out to eat, you ask someone to cook, your steak well done, you're gonna have some problems. You almost have to fight the people to cook the blood out of it. They want to serve it with the blood in it and get angry at you, but it's my steak though. How do you get angry at me for my steak? If that's what you want to do, then why are you angry because I don't? So then it's something bigger than just that. Go ahead.
Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard.
Right. You have a culture that was given unto us. But then corporate America gives us something else. Corporate America gives us the clean shaven look. And we don't think that a look means anything. A lot of times people say, I have to do, go and, make this money and things of that nature. And I understand that. What we don't think about is a look does represent something. It's like when you see an individual and he's covered, he has his loins covered, he has a long enough shirt that covers his private area, you're understanding that he's representing something. So when you see a grown man with no hair on his face, you understand that he's representing the Christian way. You understand that he's representing something that they've put forward, which is strange because if you go back far enough, all the Christians had big beards. All of a sudden, it disappeared as this is the way of, so-called civilized people. So then they got away from these things. So even that just cutting, and Yahweh gave us a culture so that when we try to cut our beard, the hairs curl up in our skin and give us all kind of bumps. Nobody else on the planet has that problem. Nobody. But we were also the only ones that stood before that mount and were given all of these. Everybody else on the earth can shave every day and have a problem. Except the people who the law was given to. We had to trick our faces to shave. We had to tell people, all right, don't use the razor up under here. Use the clippers under here. Use the razor under here. But make sure you put the hot towel on my face so that it draws the hairs out. It was an equation for us to cut our hair. Why was that? Because we were never supposed to do it in the first place. And even your body revolts against you by doing it. You have to train your face to shave it. You have to train it, and if you stop doing it long enough, you got to start back over. Why? Because it was given unto you by your Elohim that this is what a man is supposed to look like. I remember coming out or first coming into the word, I had family members say, why you do that to your face? You're so handsome for you. I can't even see you. Like apparently, I turned into Bushwick. Like this is so much hair that I had to move the hair to see, for you to see my eyes. To them, this was the hairiest thing they'd ever seen. A couple years later, it took about a decade. Now, almost every NBA player, now it's the coolest thing that you ever did want to see. Now, what if I had let them talk me out of my God's culture? See, I'm going to walk into culture whether it was cool, and I don't care how many ball players decide to have a big beard. That means nothing. We have to decide that we're going to walk in culture even when it's not cool or accepted by the masses. Because this wasn't cool when we started, but it's the coolest thing ever now. Go ahead.
Verse 28. Ye shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am Yahweh.
Now, of course, we have seriously been dealt with that. The making cuttings in your flesh. You have a lot of the tribal markings, and then, of course, the printing any marks upon you. We have gone wild with the tattoos. And I remember a point that it wasn't like that you didn't see a whole lot of people, especially our people. It used to be a point that when you saw our people with tattoos, they was in two places, either military or jail. They're the only two places that somebody who eventually got a tattoo. And then you knew the jail ones because they was always green. They only had one ink color, and apparently that's the only color they had around. But as time went on, tattoos became the thing, and it went everywhere. So this was then made to be cool. And you got to think about the prayer that we have to make for that. I'm guilty of those things as well. Then you have to think about, not only did we print the marks on us, but then we printed images that are also blasphemous. So we not only have a permanent marking on us, but then we have permanent blasphemous markings on us. So there's so many things that we need to be forgiven for that we're just not aware of. Now let's go to First Kings chapter 18. And I want to start at verse 20. 1 Kings chapter 18 and verse 20.
So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people, and said, How long halt thou between two options? If Yahweh be Elohim, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him, not a word.
Okay, so he says, and Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long halt you between two opinions? So this means we're going to deal with part of the things that Yahweh has given us, but the other part is going to be with other gods. That is happening to us thick right now because we are not aware that the festivals that have been put together are done in remembrance of other gods. And we have now gotten accustomed to those things, and we're creatures of habit. So if you get us accustomed to something, you get us used to something, we feel like we're losing something if we stop it. And it might not even be something that we really want to do per se, but we don't want anything taken from us. So we have an issue there. This is why the adversary wants to be the first to get to us. This is why you're finding some of the most god-awful books are being allowed to be in school. Now they banned the 1619 Project. You cannot hear accurate history about what slave masters did to slaves. But your fifth grader can hear the most god-awful, twisted sexual things coming out of a book that the school approves. Well, the adversary knows if he can get to them early enough and taint their thought process, then he has them. So a lot of times people, when people are holding their kids back, people say, man, you're holding your kids back. No. This foulness going to be out here forever. Foulness never expires. What you want to do is try to hold them kids to a point where you are at least mature enough in the mind by the time you hear this. That's what you want. It's not about holding them back, because if they hear the wrong things too early, it causes some problems that they will end up dealing with for the rest of their lives. Go ahead.
Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of Yahweh, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under, and I will dress the other bullock, and I will lay it on the wood, and put no fire under.
Now, you see how the heathen worshipers greatly outnumber those who are attempting to walk in righteousness? It's no different today. For every one of us, it's 450 of those. More. Go ahead.
And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of Yahweh. And the Elohim that answereth, the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal.
Now, it's something. This is where, your own ego starts to tripping. Now, they ain't never seen Baal shoot no fire, and consume no offering. They have allowed themselves to get in. This is where you have a situation and your emotions getting in and you go a little bit too far. Go ahead.
Choose you one bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon.
Now, listen how long he lets this go on. See, but before he intervenes, go ahead.
Saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leapt upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Eliah mocked them and said, Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened.
Now, you have to consider they're jumping on the altar. They're doing all of these things, right? They're giving at this point a big show. I want you to pause and think about some of the things that we looked at on Sunday morning. That would be the jumping, the running around, the screaming, all of these things. I want you to think about it, and you consider the civilized nature in which the servant of Yahweh calls his Elohim, and the way in which Baal, which means Lord, by the way, okay? The way in which they jump all over everything. You don't read any of that anywhere else in this book, where the servants of Yahweh are serving him by losing control of themselves. Go ahead.
And they cried aloud, and cut themselves after their manner, with knives and lances, till the blood gushed out upon them.
Okay, stop. Remember, he said, you shall not make cuttings upon yourself. Now, we have accepted somebody else's God. We pick up their things, and now they're cutting themselves to this day. There are places in, I want to say South America, and where they will go, and they have given, of course, Christ in as a substitute. Because you see these lancets, there are some of them that will tie strings to the lancets and hit themselves on the back so that it starts cutting them. And they're walking down the street bleeding. And they're saying that they're doing it, and some of them will be carrying a cross, that they're doing this for Christ. No, they're doing it for the Lord. The Lord was way before Christ. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice, nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And Elias said unto all the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. And he repaired the altar of Yahweh that was broken down. And Elias took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of Yahweh came, saying, Israel shall be thy name.
Right. So then when you deal with these pearly gates and all of these things, understand there's a reason why he's setting up 12 stones. But we won't be given that because people don't want to share in any authority. Why do you think the Jewish said, yeah, we know that there are lost tribes, but we don't want to look for none of them? Who would say that if they had lost family? People who didn't want to share in the authority that they have assumed upon themselves. Go ahead.
And with the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahweh, and he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice, and on the wood.
Now you're dealing with a different level of faith. Because if you're trying to get something to be consumed by fire, you wouldn't pour water on it. Go ahead.
And he said, Do it a second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, Do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran round about the altar. And he filled the trench also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said,
Now, I want you to understand, even though Elijah is working and doing this thing, there was still a strategy. And hey, it's 450 of y'all. Y'all go first. First of all, he's also timing this with the evening sacrifice. See, he doesn't call. It says call on Yahweh in a time where he might be found. That means you might have to know his movings. Wait a minute, no. There's a sacrifice that happened around this time all the time. See, if I turn around and just ask Yahweh, you know what? Come by here at noon. No. Y'all call y'all God at noon. I'm going to call mine at the time of the evening sacrifice. Call on Yahweh in a time which he may be found. See, there's still order. See, sometimes you see the heavy belief and the heavy ability that you don't see the order and how he's orchestrating it. Letting them go first and letting his be around the time of the evening sacrifice is order. Go ahead.
and said, Yahweh Elohim of Abraham, Esaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art Elohim in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Yahweh, hear me, that this people may know that thou art Yahweh Elohim, and that thou hast turned their hearts back again. Then the fire of Yahweh fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, Yahweh, he is Elohim. Yahweh, he is Elohim. And Elijah said unto them, Take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, and slew them there.
All right. So then when we look at, these things, our people have gotten off into a whole lot of things that you might read in the beginning, and you just read, one line. That one line has caused us so many problems down throughout the generations that is much deeper than you think. Go ahead, you got something?
Yeah, what was key about that too was the fact that, Elijah's prayer, it wasn't long, loud.
Right.
I mean, these other prophets, they carried on jumping around and doing all this stuff.
Falling all over the altar.
And I mean, it wasn't loud. It wasn't long. It was direct and to the point. It's like that thing about vain repetitions and all these other kind of things. And it also shows you that, in the face of opposition, I mean, it was 450 prophets and he was alone, and so it's that thing where, at times you may be tested, the whole room may be against you, or you're going to fold. Right. Because the majority is moving to the left and you're the only one standing on the right. Hey, sometimes your biggest thing ain't going to be 450. It might be 4. The other people in your house and you. Them the heaviest 4 you ever did face, cause they know you from knee high to a frog, and they gonna pull out everything. They know all your weaknesses. They know everything. Sometimes that's the hard. That's like 450 people you don't know. 4 of them that you do know coming at you. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. They can tell you where everything you done did wrong, and all of that is to weaken your strength. See, and if it gets up in here, then now you have an issue. You got to think, why would Yahshua himself not do many miracles at all where he grew up? They're like, no, we're going to constantly remind this dude, hey, man, we knew you before all this so-called fame you got. He couldn't do no work there. He's not, I can't. A prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and in his own house. Understand that. Let's go to, I want to go to Mark chapter 5. I want to read something out of here. So that we can see how some of these very issues
cause us issues all over this book. Mark chapter 5, and I want to start at verse 1.
And they came over onto the other side of the sea, into the country of the
Gadarenes.
And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains.
So when you think about, when you talk about the worship of other gods, even in the acting out, when you look, I was, just scrolling through on my phone, and I catch these people who supposed to be, catching the Holy Spirit. When you look at those things and examine them by the book, it is equivalent to the people who had an unclean spirit. They tell you that they caught the spirit. If you read, you find out, no, that's an unclean spirit. What make you jump all around and foam at the mouth and do all of these? That's not the spirit. That's a spirit. See, we always say, oh, they caught the spirit. No, they caught a spirit. Because there's no place in this book where righteous people undergo taking off running and coming out of their clothes and falling out. That no place. Okay, keep reading.
Because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broke in pieces. Neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones.
Crying and cutting himself with stones. Now, one of the things, and hey, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I was absolutely guilty. Being in the Christian church, Jessica cried. I cried so hard one time a dude walked up to me. Damn, what, did you kill somebody? Because this public display of emotion was how you showed that you loved your God. That was all we wasn't taught reading. So the only thing that we had was the emotional display. So you have to understand that when you start connecting the dots, all of this connects to a spirit, not the spirit. Go ahead.
But when he saw Yeshua afar off, he ran and worshipped him.
Now, even the demon who ain't got no sense, got sense. Go ahead.
And cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with thee, Yeshua, thou son of the Most High Elohim? I adjure thee by Elohim that thou torment me not.
Now, this is one of the things that we have to consider. The demons, even when Saul, when the vagabond Jews tried to cast out, some unclean spirits, these folks said, Saul I know, Yeshua I know, but who are you? Understand, as soon as he comes, this person who nobody can tame because he's entertaining a spirit, and it automatically knows him. We don't consider that sometimes you may be going somewhere and somebody immediately just starts something with you. They are being used by a spirit who knows who you are. Mm-hmm. It ain't that person. You can keep trying to get mad at that person all you want. That spirit gonna then leave that body and go into another. And as soon as you focus all your energy on that person, that spirit gonna leave that one and go to another. You have to recognize the attributes of a spirit. And when you see it, you say, oh no, there he is. How you know? What? No, I thought he was over there. He was, but he left. He over there. How you know? Because I can tell how they act. I can tell what they saying. I can tell how they looking. They were doing it. They not doing it anymore. That one is doing it. That's where he at. When it says that we're fighting against spiritual wickedness, you can't deal with that with people. This is much stronger than that. much bigger than that. We keep trying to be angry at people. It's not the people. It's the spirits that they're entertaining. That's what you got to cast out. But to do that, sometimes you got to separate from the people. Did you have something?
Yeah, because depending on the motivation of people or the things that are driving them at that moment, they might be susceptible to that particular spirit. The spirit is just looking for some place to dwell.
No doubt they're susceptible. But understand, the spirit looks for something that is able to be used. No different than for Yahweh to use a body to hold the spirit of Israel. That's what Yahshua is, the body that held the spirit of Israel. It had to be susceptible. It had to be made a certain way to be able to receive that spirit. So when a unclean spirit goes to a place, it knows I'll be welcomed here. They won't try to exercise me out because they like some of the stuff that I do. Right. So you got to pay attention when you go in people's house and they have all these strange books and all these other things. They've entertained all these other things. Don't act like it's some big deal that you realize that they entertaining spirits. What do you think they were doing with all them books? Entertaining all those spirits. Go ahead.
Verse 8. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many.
We are many. It's not even one demon inside this. Now, this is how you can, have, and I've encountered this, and if you think back, some of you have too, where you were talking to somebody, and they saying one thing, and the next time, 4 to 5 minutes later, they're saying something else as if they wasn't there 4 minutes ago. And you said, you know what, this person's loony. No. That's a different spirit talking. The first one was a spirit. 5 minutes later, that's a different spirit. They all fighting over the mic. Give me the mic. Let me talk. Hey, Esaac. Hey, come in. No, give me the mic. So you got different demons, and you seeing one person. It's 7 or 8 people you talking to. You know how difficult it is to be one individual trying to carry on a debate with 7, 8 people? Go ahead.
And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was there nigh unto the mountains, a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them.
Send us into the swine. Now, the swine have a purpose there. The swine are garbage disposals. When you talk about a landfill, that's what swine are. They will eat absolutely anything, and nothing can poison them. Today, we eat the landfill. And you just ask somebody, just thinking that, would that be a good date? And you know what, man, girl, I really like you. I want to take you somewhere nice. And you drive up to the landfill, and it smells horrible. The closer you get to it, the worse it smells. And then just tell her, just reach your face down in there and pull out whatever you want and eat it. Are you crazy? Well, that's what you do when you eat that pig. That's the landfill. That was life's version of a garbage disposal. It will eat bone, tissue, everything. Nothing can poison it. Nothing can poison it. The poison flows through its whole meat and everything. So when somebody eats it, you're eating all of the poison that it was able to eat and not kill it. But it's going to cause you some problem. It didn't cause it no problem. Consider that. And then they said, let us go into the swine. What can we find nastier than it? Exactly. Go ahead.
And forthwith, Yahshua gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine. And the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea, They were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea.
So even the unclean pigs had enough sense to know, I don't want to live with these in me. Correct?
And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they came to Yahshua and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid.
Check that out. He been crazy so long that when he's sitting there with his clothes on, acting like he got some sense, they were more scared that he was sitting there. Now, normally, man, you be doing smoke crazy, climbing all up on the trees and, saying stuff, and you just sitting there looking at us. We're very afraid. It's like when you're accustomed to having the check engine light on your car, and one day the light go off, it scared the hell out of you. Hey, man, why the check engine light went off? Now you be like, nah, it's really broke. Nah, it's really broke. It really broke now. That light been on, man. All of a sudden, that light went off, man. Now, it's so sad. Because then we like, I need to take this car to the shop. That car should have been to the shop a year and a half ago. It doesn't say, look, man, I'm just broke, and this is what it is. Turn the light off. He ain't going to fix me. Go ahead.
And they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him to depart out of this coast.
Right. You see that?
Coast,
you know what? You doing too many miracles. We need you to leave. First of all, you messing up people's money, man. We had a lot of work that we were going to do with those pigs, man. Now, they weren't going to eat them, but they had a lot of work. You got to think about, if people, I watched this this show that I was put on to about this sister that builds gardens, and she brings in sheep and goats when they got to clear out a field. They bring the sheep and the goats in, and they eat every bit of foliage there. I'm telling you, they eat it dry. The whole thing, you look up, and it's never any, there's no indication that there was ever anything green there. They eat everything in sight. So imagine somebody who has an enormous amount of wasteful stuff that they need to get rid of. Hey, man, bring your pigs over here for us. How much would you, charge me to bring your pigs over here and let them eat up all this mess I got? That's a job. So when you talk about those that herd or the swine running violently and choking themselves in the water, that was somebody's money. They had a job to do. This is like all of your fleet of trucks going underwater at the same time. So this was a big deal. Go ahead.
And when it, wait, what was it? Verse 18?
Start at verse 18.
Okay, and when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. Howbeit Yahshua suffered him not, but saith unto him, Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things Yahweh hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Yahshua had done for him, and all men did marvel.
All right. So now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16. And I just want to read verses 21 and 22.
Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of Yahweh thy Elohim, which thou shalt make thee.
Now it says the subheading here says forbidden forms
of worship. All right. Verse 21, you shall not plant you a grove of any trees near unto the altar of Yahweh your Elohim. Now, why does Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth and all that in them is, have a problem with a grove of trees? When you start examining this, you find out that, these groves are these evergreens that these people were worshiping, aka your Christmas trees. If you pay attention, or if you have paid attention, have you noticed that even the Christmas trees are disappearing from the churches? Too many people are starting to read and not just jump around, run, fall on the altar, do those things. They are starting to disappear. Even when they keep their Christmas, you find out that tree not up there anymore. It's coming down in more and more things because they realize, look, people are doing some reading and they're going to call us out on this. And it says that we're not supposed to bow down to it. Well, if you get a grove, a Christmas tree, where were the gifts placed? Under the tree. What did you have to do? You had to bow down to get the gifts. Even when we had the situation where we were lied to and told that Santa Claus gave us all these gifts, all the open gifts you were able to partake in. But the ones under the tree, you had to wait until mom and daddy got up. And each person had to go bend down, go get their own gift. Each person had to go bow down to the tree individually. They would call out your name. You got to go over there and get yours. So at some point, their people bowed down all around the tree. Now, the kids done been up for hours. Some so much they done been up, went back to sleep. Get back up. But that's that moment when everybody has to bow down and get what's under the tree. And they got to look for what has their name on it. This is how the adversary made the forbidden worship fun. Keep going.
Neither shalt thou set thee up any image which Yahweh thy Elohim hateth.
So then when we think about that, then we have to think about all of the things that even happens with this tree. When we read what I think is Jeremiah 10, for one cutteth down a tree out of the forest, and he decks it with silver and gold. If you go back, we used to have this stuff called tinsel, where you just drape it all around the tree. It was silver and gold. How is a Christmas tree defined and described in Jeremiah 10 if it's about Christ? How is the decoration of the tree already in the book? Christ ain't been born yet. How is that possible? It is not possible. They then used the so-called celebration of Christ's birth and used that to keep what they were already doing. Go ahead.
In Judges 6, Gideon was told to go and cut down that wooden Asherah. They were worshiping those things. And it was part of the Canaanite religion when they were worshiping Baal to have those trees and those wooden poles shaped like various images and various people and various things, that they actually worship. So you actually find that spoken of in Judges 6, where Gideon was told to go down there and cut that thing down.
Yeah, I remember when, he had to, go knock some stuff down. He was scared as all get out. That he has to go and deal with this, and he know the people are not going to like it. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7. starting at verse 22.
And Yahweh, thy Elohim, will put out those nations before thee, by little and little. Thou mayest not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee. But Yahweh thy Elohim shall deliver them unto thee, and shall destroy them with a mighty destruction until they be destroyed. And he shall deliver their kings into thine hand, and thou shalt destroy their name from under heaven. There shall no man be able to stand before thee until thou have destroyed them. The graven images of their gods shall be burned with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them.
The silver or the gold that is on them shall not even be desirable. You shall burn them with fire. Go ahead.
Nor take it unto thee, lest thou be snared therein, for it is an abomination to Yahweh thy Elohim. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thine house.
Now, wait a minute. This is where things starts getting interesting. Neither shall you bring an abomination into your house. Now, there's certain things that we have been told is okay. And even when we, let's say, entertain family and friends, we have one culture, but then we allow people in our homes not just to visit, but they're staying for some time with a different doctrine, and you gotta think, what is that doing to your children, who, they were able to just avoid this kind of thing before, but now that thing is right there in the living room with them every day. So now you done brought this abomination, or you have joined yourself unto this abomination. It is going to affect your whole household, from the top to the bottom. It's going to affect you. Go ahead.
Lest thou be a cursed thing like it.
At least you be a cursed thing like it. Now, wait a minute. How would you be a cursed thing like it? You have taken on its spirit. Now, nobody sees that when it's happening to them. Nobody sees that. But that cursed thing is starting to affect you. Go ahead.
But thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is a cursed thing.
For it is a cursed thing. Now let's go to chapter 13. Deuteronomy chapter 13. See, some of the ways that the adversary has pushed his doctrine upon us is quite interesting. He's very creative with, how he does what he does. Even being bold enough to come to Yahshua. If you bow down and worship me, all shall be yours. But you have to consider one thing. If he was able to turn the angels against Yahweh, or some of them, it's no reason for us to marvel that he would try to turn the sun. There's no reason to marvel that he would try to turn us. Deuteronomy chapter 13, and let's start that at verse 1.
If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder.
Now, remember it says, the Greeks seek after wisdom. Israel seek after a sign. So automatically, there's something in us that makes us prone to this type of thing. So when you see these individuals and they're giving us these shows where, people, pass out and they get up and run across the room, we are drawn toward signs. Understand that. Go ahead.
And the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake unto thee, saying, Let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known, and let us serve them. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams. For Yahweh, your Elohim, proveth you.
Your Elohim proves you. What does he mean? Yeah, your Elohim will put you in a situation to see what you gonna choose. He'll put you in a situation, let somebody bring something to you to see what you gonna do. He'll let your family come in between him and the word on purpose so he can see what you gonna do. Say, no, don't stop it. Let that happen. Because I want to see, I'm proving this individual whether or not they're going to be my servant or not. Go ahead.
And if that person stands, he gets glory from it. In a lot of instances, he'll test you just to, the Most High knows our frame.
Uh-huh.
He knows our frame. And so in some of those instances, he'll throw that thing out there and it will bring him glory because he knows if you are serving and you've been tested before that you are not going to move. And it brings him glory.
It brings him glory even when the people who tested you see, back in the days you would have failed to that. Really, I guess you're serious about this Yahoo or whoever that is. I guess you and Yahoo. I guess you, okay, all right, I see what you're doing. Now, the very ones who test you might be the very ones to compliment you later on. But that's going to be later on. After you have stood against all the things that they have implemented. After you've refused all the things that they offered you to step away. The very ones will compliment you when the trial is over. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh thy Elohim proveth you, to know whether ye love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your soul.
Check that out. So, and like Mother Leah said, when he knows our frame, he knows how to come at us. There was certain things that I would go through when I first got into the word. And one day, I was just in tears. And I said, I can't understand why this certain thing keep happening to me like this. And it'll be different people. It was always with the same kind of people and always the same kind of way. And after shedding those tears, reaching deep down, I realized, I was prone to that before. He's proven to me that ain't me. No more. And after that, it never happened again. Happened back to back to back to back to back. I go to crying, looking for, okay, what is this for? Apparently, that was the day I passed. He was waiting for me to break down crying. So sometimes you take the trial longer than it's supposed to take. Because you like, I'm tough. I ain't going to cry. He like, all right, well, another round. Another round, please. You go ahead and break down and be like, all right, that's enough. What they say, as long as you still walking, they say, give him another drink. He all right? When you start all right, that's enough. He can't handle no more. You keep trying to act like you tough. Another round, please. You doing that to you. Go ahead.
Ye shall walk after Yahweh, your Elohim, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice, and ye shall serve him, and cleave unto him. And that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams, shall be put to death, because he hath spoken to turn you away from Yahweh, your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust thee out of the way which Yahweh thy Elohim command thee to walk in.
Wait a minute. So, if Yahweh has commanded a way for you to walk, and anybody tries to convince you to walk differently, that person is putting themselves in grave danger, depending on what Yahweh wants out of you. Sometimes, to protect someone, you got to get away from them. Because if they keep doing this, my God is going to do that.
There are some people that you might love so much that you got to get away from them because they won't stop doing what they're doing. And they don't understand. Every time they do something to you, they end up in the hospital. Something happened over here. The tire fall off their car. They can't figure out why does this keep every time they do something to you. Now, here it is though. You love that individual. And if Yahweh completely does something to that person, it's going to affect you. So now you are charged with a situation. I want this person to stay alive, but I know they're going to operate how they operate. To keep them alive, I got to stay away from them. See, now we're on a different level of sacrifice. See, you read about stuff that, that you love something so much you let it go. And they say, wait a minute, who would love something so much that they let it go? When you want it to live? When you know if it keep doing this, my God gonna kill it? I love it so much I gotta walk away from it. Because it's the only way that I can make sure that it live. That's a hard decision to make. But you gotta ask, do you love it for only the reasons that pertain to you? Or do you love it enough to let it live? Go ahead.
So shalt thou put the evil away from the midst of thee. If thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thine own soul.
Your friend, which is as your own soul. Go ahead.
Entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods.
And trust me, it's not going to come out like that. Trust me. This is the beginning, all right? The adversary has gotten way better than that, all right? So nobody's going to come with a straight up conversation. You know what? You want to go serve Lucifer later on tonight? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's going to be presented as some kind of social gathering or a party or something that's fun. Later on, it's going to be seen how deeply you've gone against your Elohim. It's not going to come out like that. So if you're looking for that, you might be done it about 10 times before you realize what you've done. Nobody's coming to you that way. The adversary is much, what does it say? He used the snake because it was much more subtle than all the other beasts of the field. What do you mean? It was slick. It moves slick. He said, oh, I like the way this moves. This moves absolutely foul. I can use this to do something. Go ahead.
Let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, that thou, though nor thy father, namely, of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from the one end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth. Thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him. Neither shall thine eye pity him.
This is where we get into our trouble. Neither shall your eye pity him. See, when we pity certain things, what happened is you're creating an opportunity for it to happen again. We keep trying to have pity on individuals who have already decided what type of person they're going to be. And you keep trying to have pity on them. And what happens is they're able to do harm to more people because of your pity. See, you look at the pity and you say, oh, it's good that Yahweh has mercy, and you think that's what you're doing. Mercy can only be shown to the repentant. Because there's some change, even if that change is not today. There's some change for them down the road. There's others, no matter what you give them, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it will never be enough, and they are never going to stop doing what they do.
and you being pitiful toward them, now instead of just that person being done wrong, now that person, that person, that person, and that person have all now been done wrong. And what was the vehicle that did it? Your pity. Go ahead.
Neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him, but thou shalt surely kill him. Thine hand shall be first upon him to put him to death.
Now, all we have to do to kill and put somebody to death today is start talking to him. You ain't got to pull out your sword. Block. You know when you block, this thing is amazing. Do you know that when you block somebody on this, you know it don't ring at all? So you're not even tempted. See, that should I else? You know it ain't nothing but vexation of spirit on the other end, and you still flirting with whether or not you should pick it up. When you block it, you'll just look up 3 days later and it'll say, voicemail. I don't remember getting no call. You check your voicemail. Hey, this is Lucifer. You want to go out? Nah, I'm glad I missed that. I'm glad I missed that call right there. You don't even have, you don't, it takes away that little thing from you. This is how you kill it. Whatever you're trying to kill anything, you cut off what it eat. If you got cancer in your body and you're trying to kill it off, you got to find out what does that cancer eat. All right, cut that off. If that cancer feed on yeast, you got to cut out all yeast. So you got to starve that thing. That's what you got to do with whatever you're trying to get rid of. Find out what it eat. That's how you kill it. We're not physically killing anybody. We're killing them off from our presence. Go ahead.
And afterwards, the hand of all the people. And thou shalt stone him with stones, that he die, because he hath sought to thrust thee away from Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. And all Israel shall hear and fear, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you. If thou shalt hear, say in one of thy cities, which Yahweh thy Elohim hath given thee, to dwell there, saying, certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you, and have withdrawn the inhabitation of their city, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which ye have not known.
Now, let me ask something here. When it says, all of them shall stone them with stones. Spiritually, how do you stone someone with stone? What's a spiritual stoning? What's that?
I'm gonna drink some water.
You gonna drink some water? That wasn't the answer. But wait a minute. What was the law written in?
Stone.
Oh yeah.
Okay. When it says that Yahshua, it says that there was a sword that proceeded out of his mouth. What you think he reading? When somebody was stoned to death, they picked up those bits of rocks and they threw it at the person. So they broke the law, and broken pieces of the law was thrown at them. When they broke the law, did Moshe get the table and break it? Okay. So when they get judgment, broken pieces of the law are flung at them. It's law that hit them. So you stone them. You read this book. Why do you think it spiritually hurts people? When you start reading this word, you don't know you stoning them. You stoning them and you have no idea. You just reading. And it's hurting. And you're like, what is wrong with you? I'm just reading. No, you
you are spiritually stoning them because you are reading what thus says Yahweh. And it's going to be the same thing when they see Yahshua, because the sword that proceeds out of his mouth is the law of his Elohim that's in his heart. What's in his heart is going to proceed out of his mouth. And those who cannot abide will be cut. Go ahead.
Then shalt thou acquire, and make search, and ask diligently, and behold, if it be truth, and the thing certain, that such abomination is wrought among you, thou shalt surely smite the inhabitations of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof with the edge of the sword. And thou shalt gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street thereof, and shalt burn with fire the city, and all the spoil thereof, every whit, for Yahweh thy Elohim. It shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again.
All right. Let's go to, I want to go to Leviticus chapter 18. See, all this time, you know, you go in that book and you start reading and you couldn't understand why people were getting so uncomfortable. I don't know if, you know, it's a really, really horrible situation. I don't know if anybody ever really seen, you know, one of those medieval stonings. You know, they got them things in places that you probably don't want to see. But I'm telling you, it is absolutely horrific where, you know, they dig a hole, put the person in the hole so they can't move. And a whole city, they still do this over in other places now. So you keep looking, you'll find a video of it. And they can't move. Some of them are begging. It was one video where this woman was caught in adultery or what have you. And of course, you know, I don't remember no man being there. So I don't know who caught him. Once again, there was something wrong with that judgment. But the woman was either asking for forgiveness, and it was her own daddy saying, no, you shall not be forgiven. And they start throwing them rocks. It is one of the most horrible things to witness because it's a slow process. It does not happen right away. All right? You got to think, half these people can't aim. So rocks is hitting bits and pieces, you know, and you know, it's drawn out. But you also have to think about the flip side of that. Think about the emotional heartstrings that are pulled when somebody has to watch that. You know what's going through their head? Oh, I ain't gonna do that. I ain't gonna do that. See, let me tell you something. They did something, and you want to think about the mind screw that we had on us? The whole purpose of hanging us as slaves and leaving us out there. That made all the rest of us say, oh, no, I ain't running away. Nah, I'm going to take whatever if they beat me, they kill me, they do. But I'm not doing that right there. Not only would they hang them, then they would cut off body parts and leave them there dangling with the cut off body parts. And you know which body parts they cut off. Right. So it had a purpose of making you see it. Yahweh had a purpose. Look at it. What he said, the hands of the witness, the person who saw it. You got to throw the first rock. Why do you think Yahshua changed it up? He that is without sin cast the first stone. See, now that messed them up. They weren't ready for that. They wasn't ready for that. Because he knew the judgment was twisted anyway, because they had the woman there, not the man. No. He who is without sin cast the first stone. He knew she was guilty. But what happened if you go to court and they don't read your rights? Don't the case get thrown out? Okay. They didn't come at her right. Yahshua threw the case out. He didn't say she didn't do it. Matter of fact,
He basically said she did. He said, go and sin no more. He didn't say, woman, I know you are not guilty. You are innocent. No. He said, oh, I know you did that. I saw you. Don't do it no more. Go ahead.
Oh, where are we starting at?
Verse 21.
And we're chapter 18, right?
Yep.
Okay. And thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire of Moloch, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim. I am Yahweh. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled.
Now, in verse 21, and you shall not let any of your seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shall you profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yahweh. Now, one of these things is when they're, letting them pass through the fire, they are devoting their children. They're offering up their children. Okay, there is this thing that we have been talked into doing over and over, which is the christening of the children. And it's supposed to be the children's dedication. And we don't think that that's what's happening. I remember there being a big uproar the day I decided, you know what, this is not happening anymore in my house. I mean, people are hot. People who ain't in your house, though. That's the interesting thing. It's other family members who are upset that you decided, no, I'm not doing this baby dedication of baby baptism. What is it? The baby is the cleanest thing in the room. The baby has performed no sin whatsoever. We don't need to be here watching the baby. We need to be here watching us. So when we look at some of these things and we're devoting our children to these things, we have to think about just how far back some of them go. And they've just been disguised to look like something else. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 18. Because we had a serious problem with this. Deuteronomy 18, and we're going to start at verse 9.
When thou art come into the land which Yahweh thy Elohim giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations.
All right, so we were already warned. You have a tendency to mimic what you see other people do. Learn not to do after their abominations. Think about it. It was us that said, you know what? Yeah, I know we got, a prophet. We got all that. But look, give us a king like all the other nations. And you go back into our history as kids. We did the same thing. Baba, give me some Levi's or some Jordache so I can be like all the other kids. Please. We did the same thing. We the same people. We have not changed. Give us this stuff so we'll look like all the other people. Go ahead.
There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, or to use divination.
Now, this is what they just did. He had already warned them before. Look, I'm telling you, this is what these people do, and I'm having you remove them. Don't you go in there and do it. What do we do? When in there and start doing it? Why? Because of who we hanging around. We keep thinking that we can be around all of these foul people and nothing foul rubs off on us. That's our own vanity. Your own vanity tells you can handle anything. Your own vanity says, I can go, to this place and it won't affect me.
That's your own vanity. Telling you can handle it. Yahweh gave us the warning beforehand. Go ahead.
or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer.
Necromancy. They doing all of these things for the dead. You go back to some of these other cultures. I have been at someone's house, got ready to ring the doorbell, and I felt exceptionally strange. I'm looking at the door, and there's food, plates, full plates, drawings at the thing, and I'm sitting there like, I gotta get to that doorbell. And there's all this stuff. These people know I'm coming. But they forgot to tell me to come around the side. So I'm sitting there, and it takes me a couple of minutes to figure out if I put one foot here, and then I can lean over to this side, I can hit the doorbell and jump back and not land in whatever the hell this is. Because at this point, I'm not educated on that, but I know there's some worship stuff. All right? I hit that doorbell, and the guy sees me before he opens it, and he runs and opens the door, and he starts apologizing. I'm sorry. I should have told you to go around. And I'm like, what in the world was that? That was food offered for the dead. See, certain people have rituals that certain customs, because this was somebody who was from another land. They were keeping the gods of their land, and that was part of it to make this food for the dead, which is basically what we do in Halloween. All Hallows Eve is the night of the dead. So all of this was made, all this food was put out there for the dead. I'm sure the stray cats and dogs love this holiday. They just go from house to house and just feast. But this was serious business. Go ahead.
For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh. And because of these abominations, Yahweh thy Elohim doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with Yahweh thy Elohim. For these nations which thou shalt possess, hearken unto observers of times, and unto diviners. But as for thee, Yahweh thy Elohim hath not suffered thee so to do.
So, in us not dealing with it, we basically didn't deal with the purpose of us actually getting the land. Getting the land was supposed to be a judgment unto the people who had done that. But instead, we moved in and started doing what they did, and that got them kicked out. Go ahead.
I think I might have just lost my place.
Verse 15.
And Yahweh thy Elohim will rise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken.
Right. This is the prophetic writing about Yahshua coming in the flesh. Go ahead.
According to all that thou desirest of Yahweh thy Elohim in Horeb, in the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, neither let me see this great fire any more, that I die not. And Yahweh said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken.
Right. Yahweh leads them right up to a point and let them say what is going to happen anyway. They can't behold the glory of Yahweh. They ask for an intercessor. An intercessor is exactly what they need. They've well said that what they have said. Because I can't deal with them. I'm going to consume them. Go ahead.
And I will rise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And I shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, even that prophet shall die.
Now, the one thing you have to look at is when the false prophets were doing their little thing on Sunday morning, you have to also understand the power of them not using Yahweh's name. See, we look and we say, do they not know the name? No. They definitely know the name. They went to seminary school. They know the name. But there's not only just power in them not saying the name. They're not saying his name when they offer the false prophecies. They know enough. Just like the demon knew to run up to Yahshua. The adversary, the devil, knew to come and make his appearance. Even though he's doing whatever he's doing, he know I need to go make my appearance with the rest of the angels. When they did these things, they understood, hey, we don't want to play with Yahweh, his real name like that. We'll do this in some other name. Right. Go ahead.
And if thou say in thine heart, how shall we know the word which Yahweh hath not spoken? When a prophet speaketh in the name of Yahweh, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which Yahweh hath not spoken. But the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously, that thou shalt not be afraid of him.
All right, that's as far as I want to go right there. Let's go to Exodus chapter 22. Exodus chapter 22, and I want you to read verse 18.
Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
Now, when you deal with this and you back up to misunderstanding, and they had, the whole witch hunts and they setting them on fire, they doing all of these things, you have to go back and deal with how they were at one point strong in the word, but with much misunderstanding. Now those very things are normal. I want to read in Strong's. It's H3784. Kasaf, a primitive root properly to whisper a spell, that is, to enchant or practice magic. Sorcerer, use witchcraft. And when you get down into the New Testament, when they said that it was a one person, and I think it might have been Demetrius, might be the name, don't quote me on that, when it says he bewitched the people for a long time or whatever, and they got paid off making these idols. So there's much money in this. So you get the people to believe in certain things. Then you sell the items that are connected to that belief. This is why they said, you know that the prophet, that the goddess Diana is worshipped everywhere. But this man is coming here speaking against the great goddess Diana. And if he keep doing this, it's going to ruin our trade. They was thinking about money. We make a lot of money selling these Diana things. Today, that would be transformed into Mary. You go around and you find a lot of these individuals, they can't even see in their car because Mary covering the whole back window. They back up and hit you and you like, man, you ain't see me? No, I only saw Mary. Bruh, you need to take that off your back window. They can't see nothing.
The worship of this woman is there. So it is interesting. You have to ask yourself, how does one get to that point? Because these are gods that they already worship. And it's supposed to be Mary holding baby Jesus, right? How does Mary get to be over the Messiah? Because in all of those things, it's her that's pushed to the forefront, not him. But then you back up and you find out how they worship the goddess. Oh, so in all of these places, they gave them a god or a worship practice that fit what they were already doing. So it made it very easy to join Christianity if you're going to give me the God that I already served, and you'll give it to me in a festival or a holiday, then okay, I'll accept that. Because what happens is, then they got to celebrate other gods for all the other people too. So, that's just, things that we have to consider and pray about. Because coming out of here, some of us think that we are in better shape than we are. There are things that we've done against our Elohim that he hadn't even showed us that we're doing. The same way he had to purge the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, we're going to have to be purged the same way. We have so many ways in us. We know the ones that he's shown us. We know those. But those are the ones that are right before our face. There's some that are beneath the surface, that are deeper in, that we don't see about ourselves. So we got to brace up and get ready, because we can't go into his holy land with all those things. That's why there's a separation. Why there was this wilderness part first before they went in. Yahweh says, I'm going to raise up a prophet like unto you. Now, back up and think, what did Moshe do? Okay, same thing going to have to be done with Yahshua. You're not just going up and abruptly go into the land. Regardless as to what you think about yourself, you ain't ready. There's a sanctification process that it has to take place. Us taking care of the things that we know, that's just us getting ready for the real sanctification. That's all that is. So let us be careful, lest we think that we are in a better position than we are. We are merely getting ourselves qualified to take the test. You have not taken the test as of yet. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Let's leave out with the prayer. We're going to rise and face the east. All males, remove your head covering. And females always pray with their head covered. Abba Father, Most High Covenant Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Abba Father, we thank you for giving us yet another opportunity to read out of the legacy that you have left unto us. We pray, Father, that you would write your laws in our hearts. We pray, Father, that you would put your ways in our mind, that we may walk in the things that you have given unto us. We know, Abba Father, that we are but sinful beings. We know, Abba Father, that we have been raised in the daughter of Babylon, and we have her ways. We pray, Father, that the you in us be stronger than the Babylon that is constantly surrounding us. Give us power over these things that we have adopted and walked with for generations, and they're very, very difficult for us to get rid of. But we pray, Abba Father, that you would give us the strength to walk away from these things and walk toward you. We pray, Abba Father, that you would keep a hedge of protection round about us, that we may be able to gather together and do this once again. We ask these prayers in Yahshua HaMashiach's holy and divine name, to whom rule, power, honor, majesty, and might was given forever and ever. Amen and hallelujah.